What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. And today I have some interesting information for you guys from Nintendo themselves. So odds are, some of you probably already read the information about the 84th annual general meeting for shareholders with Nintendo. And this happened about a week or two ago. And Nintendo actually was asked lots of questions regarding the future of the Switch, the software, and even the future hardware with the Switch successor. And Nintendo had some interesting things to say. So let's talk about the Switch successor stuff, because anything Nintendo talks about with Switch 2, I feel like I have to talk about because we're so excited for it and there's so much stuff to look forward to for this console. And it's just coming out of Nintendo, it's so much better than hearing leaks and rumors, or what should I say, quote unquote leaks that we don't even know are true. But let's jump into this thing. So you can read this whole entire investors meeting summary wrap up in the description down below. Now let's jump into this. So first off, the first question we have here that was asked says, I would like to know about countermeasures against the reselling of the successor to Nintendo Switch. At last year's general shareholders meeting, you said you would prevent resale by ensuring the production of a sufficient volume of hardware. How are these efforts coming? And Furukawa says, we believe that the most important countermeasure against reselling is to produce enough units to meet demand. This thinking has not changed since last year. In addition, we are taking into account circumstances in each region and considering what measures can be taken within the limits permitted by law. Last year, and the year before, we were unable to produce Nintendo Switch hardware in sufficient quantities due to the semiconductor shortage. That situation has now been resolved. As for the successor to Nintendo Switch, at present, we do not think shortages of components will significantly affect production. So Nintendo is just pretty much saying they have all the parts and pieces that they need for Switch 2, and they don't fear at all that there's not going to be enough Switch 2s out there, which is really, really good. I feel like the worst thing that can happen is just people really want to get their hands on this new console, and it's just sold out absolutely everywhere. It still takes me back to the days of the Nintendo Wii. That is the original Wii, because the Wii U was literally everywhere after the release. But the Wii was so hard to get back then. So thankfully, it doesn't look like this is going to be a huge issue for Switch 2. Now, I couldn't remember if the original Switch was all that bad. Personally, I didn't think it was too terrible. I mean, you could walk into a GameStop weeks after that announcement and probably get pre-order placed, but they did sell out pretty fast. But it looks like Nintendo is definitely combating that. They're finding extra methods as well to prevent scalping, and that's just awesome to hear as we get ready for this new console. This next question, though, is the one that was pretty interesting to me. It states it was announced that the hardware sales forecast for the current fiscal year does not include the successor to Nintendo Switch. However, I believe the full year earnings forecast will be greatly affected by a successor system or a major software their release. I would like to hear your thoughts on the need to announce the company's full year earnings forecast. For Furukawa states, when we announced our financial results at the end of each fiscal year, we also announced our full year financial forecast for the new fiscal year. We know that investors are very interested in these forecasts. Our basic policy for IR activities is to disclose information to shareholders and investors in a fair, timely, and appropriate manner. However, in our business, it is important to surprise our consumers in a positive way. Sharing specific product information or sales strategies in advance would diminish the surprise. For that reason, we are often unable to disclose such information when announcing our earnings forecast, and we find it challenging to announce earnings forecasts at that stage. On the other hand, we also think we need to communicate our business outlook to shareholders and investors as much as possible, so we believe it is appropriate to announce our full year earnings forecast, at least for now. Previously, we also announced interim earnings forecast, but we no longer disclose those since even a slight difference in the timing of a software release can significantly change the numbers. We will continue to consider ways to better communicate with our shareholders and investors. So essentially, Nintendo is actually saying that they indeed like surprises, and they know that the consumers are more important than just the investors, which is awesome to hear. It shows that it's more important to surprise fans with cool announcements rather than just spill the beans on everything for an investors meeting. It seems like Nintendo probably still wouldn't even told fans about the Nintendo Switch 2 if it wasn't for that investors meeting in the first place. So what is Nintendo's big plans going to be with this already lineup games coming this holiday? Well, of course, in July, this month, we know we have the Nintendo World Championships game, which is definitely a very much smaller game. August has absolutely nothing. Keep in mind on that. September is a brand new top-down 2D Zelda game, which still isn't seen as one of those gigantic heavy hitters. And in fact, we really don't have any super heavy hitters for the rest of the year, no matter how big of a fan you are of any of these games. I can even say the same for Mario Luigi. But yeah, you have Super Mario Party Jamboree, which is another Mario Party game, which is probably going to sell very well, but it's still not a big 25-30 million unit seller. You know what I mean? The next big Zelda or Mario game? And of course, that leaves Mario and Luigi Brothership for the month of November, which, like I said, I am beyond excited for this game, but it's just not going to be seen as the next big hitter for Nintendo. And Miyamoto actually touches on what he means by this and states that he wants to see a 30+ million seller every 3 to 5 years. Now, that is a pretty doggone ambitious goal. I'm not going to lie. And if you look at the current Nintendo Switch, they have a 61 million seller with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So that's double what Miyamoto wanted in one game, which is awesome. That was in launch year of 2017. You also had in that same year The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild with 30 million units sold, and in that same year you had Super Mario Odyssey with 27 million. Almost 30, not quite. Those were just in the same year. Literally the next year in 2018, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate would go on to sell 34 million units as of today, which is crazy. And you have Animal Crossing New Horizons in 2020 that sold 45 million units. So clearly Nintendo still is on top of that goal. I think they're actually meeting it very easily. And you can see from this list what is considered that big 30 million seller. It's going to be the Mario Karts, the 3D Marios, the brand new Zelda games. Those are what's really going to sell for Nintendo. And that probably even includes Pokemon games as well, since they're all up there as well. And Animal Crossing New Horizons, shoot, Nintendo is not going to sleep on the idea for the next game. I'm sure they're hard at work on the next one because of this. So Miyamoto knows what sells, and he just wants to keep that pumping. So I know a lot of people are saying Nintendo is not going to reveal the Switch 2 before this holiday season because there's just so many games coming out. And yes, there are a good amount of games coming, but none of them are really that next AAA game. We don't have one of those games that's the next big game that's going to be another 25 to 30 million unit seller, unfortunately, right now for Nintendo. Because Nintendo is also very aware that some franchises just don't sell that much. I mean, seriously, they were giving praises for Pikmin 4 for selling just about 3 million units, which is normally considered very low for a lot of companies, but for a franchise like Pikmin, they realize it's a massive success. And I truly love that Nintendo has realistic expectations generations for all these different Nintendo IPs, which they know Pikmin 4 wasn't going to sell something like 10 to 15 million copies. But my point is, I don't think Nintendo is going to be afraid to announce the next big game or let alone the next console before these games come out. I don't think it's going to stop sales, especially if they just show. And they'd really be pushing it by waiting until next year to announce this thing. That means the actual release would be way past March of 2025 and probably more along the summer, which I feel like Nintendo just cannot wait that long. I mean, they're going to have to reveal some games and release games, and those games are going to be coming to Switch too. So the longer we wait for Switch 2 is going to be the longer we wait for some new titles, especially the big hitters, because we know we probably are not getting a single big hitter until the next console, which it's time for that 3D Mario Kart. And just every other big game that we've been waiting for so long. So what are your thoughts and what you think about this news? Share your opinions in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more gaming updates. Until next time, happy gaming.